Welcome to another edition of From the Woods Today. I'm Renee Williams, and I'm here with my co-host, Billy Thomas, and we both work at the University of Kentucky Department of Forestry and Natural Resources. And another cram-packed show like normal. We don't disappoint in that area, do we?
I know, it is quite loaded. We've got a repeat visitor that's been with us, a great presenter and County Extension Agent, Mr. Eric Comley. We also have Mr. Jody Thompson with the Woods and Water Lands Trust. He's going to be talking about a management symposium that's coming up, Habitat Management Symposium coming up next month. A number of our team members are working on that as well. We've got our ever popular Tree of the Week, an interesting one this week Laura will be talking about. And then we got a segment at the very end. We're going to be talking about some of the upcoming programs in March, and it's chock full. So get your calendars ready, and you'll be able to mark some of these dates down. But I'm really excited to have you all with us. If you're joining us via Zoom, interact with us via the chat pod. And if you're on Facebook Live, please use the comment sections. But regardless of how you're joining us, thanks for being with us today.
Definitely. So let's get started. Right now we have wildlife photography, and we have Eric Comley. If he can turn his camera on, great. There he is. And if you can so you're a Garrett County Cooperative Extension Agent, and could you tell, how did you get interested in wildlife photography?
Well, I mean, it's kind of one of those progression things when you, if you're going to spend any amount of time outdoors. And I'm primarily a plant person, but if you're going to spend any kind of time outdoors, you're going to run into all kinds of things. And so it started out mostly as things that were going to move about as fast as I did. So really slow, turtles and, snakes and newts and salamanders.
Right.
But, kind of as I progressed, I wanted just to get better at photography. And I felt like as I moved on, getting into smaller birds. So and I don't know, I can't remember if I mentioned it or not in the video, but one of the things is that usually the smaller the animal is, or the more likely an animal is to be prey, the more likely it is to be really fast. And so, I just wanted to take different photographs. I couldn't always do flowers, and so I got interested that way.
Well, that's very interesting. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about your segment?
Yeah, so you're going to hear at least a couple of things that I'm going to focus on, and one of those is just going to be how you prepare yourself to go out and shoot wildlife. And when I say shoot wildlife, I'm speaking specifically of photography. So, but how to prepare yourself, and then just some very general setup. And then hopefully when I come back on, I'll be able to explain a little bit more. But I know that, or I hope that the video will do some of it justice.
Hey everybody, this is Eric Comley. I work for the University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension Service as a 4-H Youth Development Agent in Garrett County. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about wildlife photography. I'm out here at Jacobson Park, which is located here in Fayette County, and I've been taking a few pictures of geese and ducks, and you'll probably hear them in the background as I'm actually doing this video. So wildlife photography, like anything else, is going to take a little bit of dedication in order to make sure that you do it right. There's a couple of key points, and I'm going to hit on those throughout this video. Hopefully you can refer back to this. If you do have any questions, feel free to contact me at eric.comley, C-O-M-L-E-Y @uky.edu. The first piece of advice I would give you as far as wildlife photography is make sure that you go to a place where you're actually going to see wildlife, and you're going to have to prepare yourself in order to be able to do that. Number one, if you know that there's a park, like I said, I'm at Jacobson Park today, and so I know that there's going to be waterfowl here. There's mallards and there's geese, and there's also other small birds that are here. There's great blue herons. So I know that I'm going to see those types of animals here. But if you have a certain animal in mind, then you may want to make sure that you do a little bit of research ahead of time to figure out where it is that you're going to see that particular animal. Okay, and you can use all kinds of University of Kentucky resources. I know that we have wildlife websites that you can actually go to and figure out where exactly in the state of Kentucky you may be able to see some of those different kinds of wildlife. The other thing is, not only do you need to know where they're going to be, is the kind of the functional places of where they're going to be as well. So what I mean by that is you're going to need to make sure that you position yourself in maybe a natural draw. So maybe it's an area where there's a water source, or maybe there's already a trail that exists there. or maybe there's a food source that you know exists there, maybe an oak tree, a white oak tree or something like that that you know deer traditionally feed at, or squirrels traditionally feed at. So make sure that you do a little bit of research on the front end as well, not only where you think you might find the animal, but when you go to that spot, go to the spot where you feel like the animal is going to have to travel because of some of the natural instincts that that animal may have. The other part of that is that not only do you want to look for the places where the animal might be as far as the natural draws for an animal, but you also may want to familiarize yourself with the types of tracks. So, and there's all kinds of incredible resources out there. The Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife resources, they have a card that you can actually take that shows you some of the tracks. And so if you're looking for a particular kind of animal, look for the signs of that animal existing in that spot. So that may be tracks, it may also be scat. So there's going to be some things that you're going to be looking out for in that particular area in order to make sure that you see exactly what you're out intending to photograph. If going out and searching for wildlife is not really your thing, if you don't want to, because it is a kind of a test of your patience sometimes, because you're going to go and you're going to have to sit in one spot and maybe kind of observe the forest or an area, a habitat, to see if something's going to move around. So, and things have to be comfortable with you being there. So if that's not going to be your thing, if patience is not going to be your thing, then set yourself up for success as far as wildlife photography is concerned. And what that means is that you know, maybe bird feeders, maybe a Salado Center that's in Frankfort, Kentucky, where you know that there's going to be wildlife that's going to be on display. That may be an excellent opportunity for not only for you to be able to see the wildlife, for you to kind of hone the skills as well as far as wildlife photography is concerned, understanding all of those rules of composition, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But not only those like local parks like Salado, but you may also go to a zoo too. So you know that the zoo is going to have animals that are going to be on display, and it's going to be animals that maybe you don't traditionally see, but it's an opportunity for you to work on those wildlife photography skills, on how to set up your camera to make sure you're getting the best possible shot that you can. Okay, one of the first things I would talk about as far as your camera is concerned is, number one, know your camera. That's going to be incredibly important. So know whatever your camera system is. So a lot of people will say, well, what if I have a cell phone? What if I have a point and shoot camera? What if I have an SLR camera? What if I have a mirrorless camera? Whatever your camera system might be, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be how well you know that particular system and what the capabilities of that system are. So if you have a cell phone camera, you know that you're not going to be generally be able to shoot anything that's going to be a great distance. So you may want to figure out, how can I get close enough to an animal to be able to take the picture that I want. You may have to upgrade cameras, but I mean, that's all going to depend on you and what you want to do, what your budget is capable of doing. And so I shoot with an SLR camera. And so this is the camera I'm shooting with today, and this is a long lens, because I know good and well that most of the time when you're shooting wildlife, that you're going to be shooting at something that generally doesn't like people. Now, the birds that I'm shooting today, all of the mallards and the geese and things like that, they've seen people at this park forever and ever, and so it's a little bit easier for me to be able to get close to them. As a matter of fact, I can walk right up to them. But if you're around normal wildlife, then what's going to happen is you are generally going to be the thing that they're the most afraid of. So you're going to have to shoot from a little bit longer distance in order to be able to get the shot that you want to. So we'll talk a little bit about compositional items and a little bit more about setting up your camera.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about was is just about setting up your camera, and I want to do this really quickly. First of all, make sure that you check with your manual and with other platforms like YouTube on how to set up your camera. If you have a cell phone, you have an SLR camera, a point and shoot camera, whatever kind of camera, make sure that you look at your manual, and in addition to that, check those platforms to see what kind of resources are out there about showing you how to set that camera up. The three things that you're going to need to worry about, or the three things that you're going to need to make sure that you focus on, are kind of are light. And there's 3 ways to do that. Number one, shutter speed. And shutter speed is how fast your opening is up. So that can be all the way down from 30 seconds, which means that your opening is going to be open for 30 seconds, all the way up to 1/4000th. And that's really fast. Okay. So that's the fastest my camera will go. The next thing that you're going to be looking at is your f-stop, and your f-stop is there's always a number that's going to be on your camera. It's going to say like 1.4 or 3.5 or 5.6 or something like that. And those numbers really are the size of your aperture or your opening. So the smaller the number, the smaller the number, the larger the opening. And so what that means is like, if I have my camera set on 1.4, that means that my opening is very big and I'm going to be letting in more light. The larger the number, so that means like, if I have my f-stop set at 22, then that means the smaller the opening. Okay. And so not nearly as much light is going to be able to get in. And then the last thing that you'll want to focus on is what is called the ISO, and that's your sensor's sensitivity to light, and you can manipulate that. Now, why I say that you need to focus on these 3 things is because depending on the type of wildlife that you're going to be shooting, depending on what it's like outside, whether it's a cloudy day, whether it's a sunny day, what it looks like outside, you are going to essentially going to need to manipulate 1 or 2 of those to be able to make sure that you get the clearest image you possibly can. And there's some hangups with each of those. So I'll go through a few of the photographs. You can see that this one is overexposed. So I would probably want to figure out something with my shutter speed, or I could figure out something with my ISO as well. And you can also see f-stop comes into focus here, because if you look at the beak of the screech owl, you can see that the beak is out of focus. If you could look at this one, you can see that the f-stop the number is really low on this one. And so you get what is called a shallow depth of field. And the shallow depth of field simply means that only one small piece of your photograph is going to be in focus and the rest is going to be blurry. And you can see that the head of the snake is in focus and everything else is out of focus. Okay. Lubber's grasshopper. This one is wide open. So really what you're trying to do is you want to look at each possible situation and make sure that you prepare for each individual situation. And that's all going to come down to, number 1, practice, and number 2, your ability to know your camera settings and adjust those depending on the animal that you want to shoot. So I hope this helps you out a little bit. And if you ever have any questions for me, please feel free to reach out. Eric Comley at eric.comley, COMLEY at uky.edu. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have about wildlife photography or any other photography that you might have.
Well, Eric, we greatly appreciate that. We wonderful pictures there. They were some of the most beautiful pictures I've seen. But what type of lens are you using for your camera? And like, as far as distance goes, like, what do you find is the best distance to be away from an animal where they don't get spooked, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so this is once again going to be dependent on the animal that you're going to be shooting. So it's, if you're shooting smaller birds at a feeder, you're going to want to shoot something at a longer lens, because so the lens that I shot some of the bird pictures that you saw, the cardinal and cowbird and some of those, that was with a 300 fixed lens. And so it's really just going to be dependent on whatever the animal it is that you're shooting, because if it's something that, once again, that if I can catch it on foot, it's pretty slow. And so that means that the shorter the lens, I can use a shorter lens to be able to work with those animals. But if it's going to be something that, number 1, is going to run away from me, or number 2 is going to be something that could bite me, that I don't want to bite me, I'm going to use a little bit longer lens. So it's all dependent on the animal that you want to shoot.
Yeah, I'm assuming with the snake photos, you have the longer lens.
No, actually,
Really?
Actually, with the both of the snake photos, I think one of them was a hognose snake, the other was a garter snake.
Mhm.
They were both with a macro lens, so
Oh,
it was a very small lens.
mhm.
I was actively trying to get the garter snake to bite me or bite at me, just so I could get it in action, and it refused. So
I enjoyed it, Eric. Really, I learned some things too. I really appreciate your explanation of some of those stuff. I'd heard some of those terms like ISO and f-stop and aperture, but I really, honestly, didn't really completely understand them. I really appreciate you kind of opening my eyes to that, and I'm sure a lot of people got some great information as well. Folks, if you have questions for Eric, please drop them in the chat pod. We'd like to see what your thoughts are, but a really nice job, Eric. I really appreciate all the work you've been doing and the help you give to this From the Woods today. You've been on here a number of times and always with solid content. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we
yeah,
told you the first time we'd have you back, and that was a guarantee.
yeah. The last thing I'll say to everybody is that, just go out and practice and shoot as much as you possibly can and figure out your camera, like I said in the video. And the other thing is too, is that a lot of times with wildlife photography, it's almost like when you look at National Geographic, you see all these incredible shots and you're like, oh my gosh, I mean, how did they get that shot? Well, I mean, you have to understand that those people are professionals. So if you're expecting to go out like behind your house and find a black bear that's eating a snapping turtle that has a rattlesnake in its mouth, you have to prepare yourself to do that. So, and find those opportunities. So, don't get disappointed, don't get discouraged, but just go out. I mean, even if it's your pet laying in the backyard, working with your camera and working on how to take better photographs is eventually going to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah, and a
I
good
love the bird backdrops that you had in there. That one crossing right behind you was awesome.
Yeah.
Did you pay them to do that?
Not much, but just feet.
Excellent. Eric, again, thank you very much. There was one question. What lens do you use for getting good pics of plants?
I use the very first non-kit lens that I got was actually a Tokina 100 millimeter macro lens, and I still use that. I probably got that lens 10 years ago and still use that lens. It does pretty well, but a good macro lens, if you can get a hold of a good macro lens, then that's great. If you have a macro function, as the new iPhones that just came out, take beautiful images, especially in a macro setting. So if you can, then whatever, however you can get a hold of a macro setting or macro lens on an SLR camera or on a point and shoot camera, that's what I do. I just saw Eileen's.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a comment that someone saw a National Geographic team setting up a shoot, and 2 hours later, and they were still setting up. So,
that's also one of the things too, is that people are like, oh my gosh, how'd they get a shot of, where did they find a copperhead that was nestled up on a log and it was curled up and looking into sunlight? Well, they didn't get that picture. They probably took that in a hotel room and set it up and had like a backdrop of all the things, and then brought in a little piece of a log and moss and all that kind of stuff. So there is a little bit of manipulation that goes into some of those shots. So don't believe that everything that you see happens immediately out in the woods. If it did, it would be the most amazing thing ever. So
yeah, Photoshop can be a wonderful thing.
But I guess it gets back to having some patience, right? It takes some, you have to get out there, you have to know where you're going, you have to be patient, you kind of have to let them come to you to some degree. So yeah. Good excuse to get out in the woods, though, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, if nothing else, just get out and enjoy the day. I mean, today's a good example.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Eric. We greatly appreciate you coming on the show again.
No, thanks, bud. See you later.
All right.
Hey, that was a great segment, Renee.
It was. Yeah. And so we're going to be moving on to our tree of the week. And Lori, I'm assuming, is on here, and she can give us a little brief details about what kind of tree she's talking about this week.
Yep. So again, looking at trees that have winter appeal, since we don't have leaves out yet, So, I mean, you're looking at trees that got some kind of neat form or structure, or bark. Usually it's bark. And that's what we picked out, another one that has, this one's an easy tree to identify by its bark. And this is the common hackberry or hackberry, which we find throughout the state. So here's the hackberry.
Wonderful.
I'm Laurie Thomas with the University of Kentucky Forestry and Natural Resources Extension, and I'm here with the tree of the week, the hackberry. Hackberry, Celtis occidentalis, is a medium-sized deciduous tree of the elm family. It is also known as common hackberry, sugarberry, nettle tree, beaverwood, northern hackberry, and American hackberry. It grows relatively fast and may live up to 150 to 200 years, and it is considered intermediate to somewhat tolerant to shade. Trees typically grow 50 to 70 feet tall and up to 2 feet in diameter. They tend to have a straight central trunk and an ovoid crown when mature. Hackberry wood has limited commercial importance, but the fruits provide birds and other animals with food in the fall and into the winter. Hackberry is widespread and ranges from the northeast into the Midwest and as far south as Arkansas and Georgia. It grows best in rich, moist alluvial soils and is commonly found on limestone outcrops. However, it is capable of adapting to a wide range of soil conditions and is commonly planted as a street tree in Midwest cities because of its tolerance. Hackberry has often replaced American elm, which was impacted by Dutch elm disease in both native forest settings and planted landscapes. It is relatively free of disease and insect issues with the exception of witch's broom, which are dwarfed, dense, contorted twig clusters at the ends of the branches. Witch's broom is initiated by the combined infestation of gall mite and powdery mildew. The leaves of hackberry are deciduous and alternately arranged on the twig. The simple leaf is oval to egg-shaped, about 2 to 5 inches long with serrated margins. The leaf has a tapering pointed tip and an unequal base with 3 distinct veins originating from the base, and you can see that pretty clearly in this photo. The leaves may be hairy or scurfy, which kind of means hairy or scruffy, and green above and pale below. Autumn color is yellow and not particularly showy. This species is monoecious, meaning one house, which means a tree has both male and female flowers on the same tree. The flowers are very small and light green. The male flowers are in clusters, and the female flowers are solitary. The flowers appear in the spring with the leaves, and they are wind-pollinated. The fruit is a round drupe. It looks kind of like a small cherry, which is a one-seeded fleshy fruit. They are small and typically about 1/4 of an inch to 3 inches in diameter. They are green when immature, ripening to an orange-red to dark purple in early fall. The fruit are somewhat dry, but they are edible. The fruit is eaten by a variety of wildlife, and the seeds are disseminated principally by birds and small mammals. Fruit may remain on the tree into the winter, and hackberry has good seed crops most years. Hackberry bark is its most unique characteristic, as you can see in this photo. The bark is grayish-brown and with the characteristic corky warts or ridges. As the tree ages, these warts and ridges develop into somewhat irregular, scaly ridges, and the bark provides year-round interest in the landscape, and again, it's a really good identifying characteristic. The wood is heavy but soft. The heartwood is a light brown to gray, and the sapwood's kind of a light yellow. The wood's overall appearance is similar to ash, but anatomically it's more closely related to elm, thus it's in the elm family. It is ring porous with 2 to 3 rows of large early pores, those are the ones formed in the early part of the growing season, and small later wood pores in wavy bands. Those are the pores that are formed later in the growing season. The wood is good for steam bending, and it's considered non-durable to perishable and is susceptible to fungal discoloration if not processed promptly. Hackberry is a relatively important wildlife tree. The fruit's eaten by fox squirrel, quail, pheasant, wild turkey, cedar waxwing, yellow-bellied sapsuckers, mockingbirds, and robins. It is also an important host for the hackberry emperor and question mark butterfly larvae, as well as host for the American snout, mourning cloak, and tawny emperor butterflies. Hackberry wood is of limited commercial importance, but good grades of hackberry wood are used for furniture, millwork, and some athletic equipment. The poorer grades of wood are used for crates and boxes, and again, the tree is used in landscape plantings. The national champion hackberry is in Hancock, Ohio. It's 286 inches in circumference, 90 feet tall, with an 89-foot crown spread. The Kentucky champion is in Mason County. It's 183 inches in circumference, 72 feet tall, with a 70-foot crown spread. If you'd like to know more about champion trees, check out American Forest National Champion Trees or check out the Kentucky Division of Forestry Champion Trees. Now for a few fun facts about hackberry. The common name hackberry is believed to be a corruption of the Scottish hagberry, which refers to the bird cherry tree in Britain. The leaves of hackberry are the easiest way to distinguish it from its relative, sugar hackberry, Celtis livigata. Hackberry leaves are toothed, and sugar hackberry leaves have smooth margins. Native American groups used the fruit for foods and spices, and the bark and inner bark to make a variety of medicines. The scientific genus name for hackberry, Celtis, is the name that Pliny the Elder gave to the European hackberry. And the species name occidentalis is Latin for west, a name Linnaeus applied to several species similar to European species, and these were found west of Europe in North America. I hope you enjoyed learning about the hackberry and get the opportunity to get out into your woodland, a local park, or neighborhood and enjoy the common hackberry.
Thanks again, Lori. We greatly appreciate you doing these every week. And remember, people, if you have any questions you want, type them in the chat pod and Lori will get them answered for you. But
it looks like we've got not a question, but a comment about somebody said there were discovered 2 unknown beetles and they were specific to unknown varieties of hackberry trees. And I didn't know, I hadn't heard about that. That was at Bernheim. So that sounds interesting. Mm-hmm. And I see Jeremy also added hackberry has been used for rifle stocks. So also, yeah, the wood. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And a back scratching tree, evidently. Yes. People have mentioned that.
It did look like it'd be good for that. Yeah.
It does.
I always think of it as a hedgerow tree. It's one that you'll see and if you go to areas that had once, you usually see them in parks where it used to be a farm, and you'll see a line of hackberries where they've been growing along that fence row. You know, obviously, I guess the birds have eaten the berry. They're sitting there on that fence, and they drop that berry down there, and you produce this row of hackberries. But it was one of those that you liked in dendrology because it was pretty easy to identify.
Yeah,
you mentioned the witch's broom. Does that kill the tree?
It can reduce vigor. It doesn't indicate in any of the readings that I did that it would actually kill the tree, but if it's got a bunch of witch's broom, it can reduce vigor of that tree. And if somebody has a tree that has witch's broom and you don't like it because it is can be unsightly, look for check out I was going to say, I know Illinois, I'm sure the University of Kentucky has something in our pathology department on treatments for witch's broom. A lot of times it's just manually pruning it out, but there may be other treatments as well.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Yeah. We appreciate it.
Yeah, Laura, your inventory or library of common trees in Kentucky is really growing.
We're up to, I think, 45 now, and I'm getting excited because spring is coming, so we get to do some, ones that have especially nice flowers. So.
There you go.
Well, thank you. I know it's a lot of work. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, there is a symposium coming up, and so we have Jody Thompson on here, and he's the executive director of Woods and Water Land Trust, and he is going to be talking about that a little bit. Jody, you want to start your camera? And there you are.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, can you tell us a little bit about the symposium?
Yes. So the Habitat Management Symposium is coming up next month. This is going to be our 6th year doing this. And essentially what this is, it's a natural areas training conference, and it focuses really heavily on teaching people how to do the practices that we talk about. So it's very, very focused on what you're doing when you're standing in the woods, when you're standing in the field, or you're getting ready to do those things. So it's kind of a culmination of years of working with you guys actually on a lot of programs and working with lots of landowners and kind of summarizing their wants. We need more about what we do when we're getting our hands dirty. And so we've been putting together kind of a powerhouse of folks who are really, really experienced in doing that. And thanks to your own Ellen Crocker and Jonathan Palmer with Kentucky State University, those two are magic. You know, we're able to do this year. So wanted to share just a couple of slides to cover the content, and so you can so folks can see the dates of it, how that's arranged, and how they can register. It's free. So let's see what we got here.
So Jody, target audience, basically anybody with interest in this subject area?
Yeah, target anybody who is outside trying to improve their habitat. It started as a professional development conference for folks like foresters and wildlife biologists, but it really quickly, we saw the need to make sure the content fits really well for active landowners or folks who are wanting to learn how to become active landowners. So it's really anybody who's trying to get something done in their natural habitat. So this flyer that I believe Ellen put together for us, you'll see it's on March 16th, 23rd, and the 30th. It is a conference, but we're splitting it up over 3 days, once a week, to kind of deal with the Zoom fatigue, also to kind of group the content together. And we think it's probably going to make it more accessible to folks. So each of those Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have this. It's going to be pre-recorded talks, but there's going to be a live Q&A for at least several minutes at the end of each of these slots with each of the speakers. And you can see at the bottom of the slide, the URL, the address there, the forestry.ca.uky to register. And you'll see a link to register. It's simple and easy. And if you have trouble with that, if you just do an internet search for the Habitat Management Symposium, UKY, or some order of that, it's going to be one of the first things that comes up. I'm the primary contact for this. And my email address is there at the bottom. So jody@woodsandwaterstrust.org. Here is, this content's not in order, but this is what we're covering. Oak hickory forest management, the importance of that habitat type and how to encourage it to be that or a better version of itself, what it is. Stephen Richter at EKU is covering this topic I've been trying to figure out how to get on for a while: management of woodland pools for amphibian habitat. Lots and lots of landowners have these old cattle ponds, these ephemeral pools that come up for different reasons. And I would always get lots of questions. And so we're trying to give the expert a chance to actually answer some of these questions. Once again, UK's Matt Springer is going to be talking about nuisance deer management, asked him to specifically talk about deer browse, because we all have issues with that in our woods or when we're doing tree plantings as well. Stream bank stabilization. Oak's Route is an engineer with Stantec, and we've worked together on some things before, and he's going to focus a little bit more on small streams and what folks can do to improve to actually what folks can actually do that doesn't take like a big engineering project to get it done. Jason Nally with Maker's Mark is going to be talking about edge habitat management. That's a habitat that's kind of the interface between woodlands and open lands. And we've got Melanie Van Houten with Josephine Sculpture Park here in Frankfurt. She is kind of a representative of a private landowner who's trying to do a lot of stuff and trying to figure it out, what she's getting right, challenges, try to kind of create that relation between, folks that are trying to do that on their own but aren't professionals. Cody Roden with Department of Fish and Wildlife, small game habitat. We've worked together on programs in the past before, and he does an excellent job. He's with the small game program, and he's going to be talking about specific on the ground practices that kind of work across biodiversity. So, and they use that model of small game to do that. Oak decline, Ellen Crocker, UK represented there again. Ellen is one of the best resources for this issue, this general issue, what's going on with trees declining in the woods or individual trees. And then I'm going to give a talk to kind of help folks narrow down their choices about techniques that work in different situations, because we see a lot of landowners spinning their wheels and trying to figure out a lot on their own. And I hope I can kind of narrow that down for them. All right, so once again, that's the address to register. And this was a really great opportunity to partner with KSU and UK again. Woods and Waters Land Trust. We work in this lower Kentucky River watershed, this north central Kentucky area, to help folks preserve their private property forever with conservation easements. And this is really important content to help those folks understand better how their properties work and and the specific things that are important to them, and how not only to preserve these things in perpetuity with easements, which we work on, but also how to improve them, while improve these places that they love. So.
Yeah, Jody, you all put together really a big heavy hitters team of some really good experts here in the state. And it looks like Dr. Ellen Crocker was able to join us as well. But I'm really excited about bringing all these different groups together. So hi, Ellen.
Hey there. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great chance to get more information on a lot of different topics.
We did have a question if there will be continuing forest education credits for this. And do you all have that lined out?
We have that planned. I'm still in the process of getting final titles and talk summaries. And once I get that together, we can submit everything for different types of CEUs to see what we can get before. So it's to be determined at this point, but it's something we are pursuing.
I would think with the lineup you've got and the topics you're covering, you should be able to get those credits for this for sure.
Yeah, that's something we've tried to do every year, was take the folks who are most experienced with these topics, who's most experienced implementing them, and have them doing all the teaching. And that's really been a big benefit to this.
Well, it sounds like a great lineup of topics for over the several days, and we greatly appreciate you all being on. Ellen, did you have anything else to say about the conference?
No, just encourage you to check it out and sign up.
Yeah, what a great opportunity, really. Take advantage of this, folks. And if you know of others who'd be interested in it, please, and let them know about it too, for sure.
Spread the word.
Definitely. Please spread the word. Once again, it's free. If you have questions, just send me an email, and I'll answer whatever you throw there at me.
And I did put in the chat pod the link to our page where you can sign up. So you should be able to sign up there. But thank you both for coming today. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Glad to do it.
Yeah, it looks like a very exciting program.
Right. Well, Billy,
speaking
of programs and events, we seem to have multitudes of them every month. And so you've decided to create something for us for every month so that we'll be able to see these. And so we greatly appreciate you doing that. But what's coming up in March?
All right. So check out basically our calendar page for most of these, and hopefully Renee can drop in some of the others that are not necessarily on our calendar page, because they may be more coming from other organizations. But let's kick it off first. We got our Matt Springers working with this 2021 Integrated Pest Management Training School. This is a great opportunity, certainly for our county extension agents, any of our active farmers, or anybody that's involved in horticulture, if you will. There's a field crops session that's going to be taking place in the morning. And so it's all about field crops and what's going on with them from a pest management standpoint. And then in the afternoon, it's all more horticulture topics, and maybe a little better aligned with some of our audience and our audience's interests. But there's some of the topics they've got on there. One of the topics is going to be talking about wildlife damage control. And there's going to be some continuing education credits for this as well. So you can check that out. Important thing, you need to register by March 8th to get that link to participate in this program. So it'll be on March 10th. So don't miss that if you're interested in integrated pest management. All right, next I want to talk about a wildlife and climate change program that's coming up. Matt Springer again is working with Lacey Kessel up in Boone County. She's county agent up there, and they've got this program really looking at about how climate change is going to be impacting not only wildlife, but plants and ecosystems here in the state of Kentucky. So you don't want to miss that one. You do have to register in order to get that link. So you can either go directly to the Boone County's website, or I put that link in there as well. And if you have any problems, just directly reach out to Lacey, and she can help you get signed up for that. So that's another good opportunity you don't want to miss out. Let's see, next, as we just heard from Jody and Ellen, the Habitat Management Symposium. Again, I won't spend too much time on this, but it is over 3 different Tuesdays from 10 to noon, the 16th, 23rd, and 30th. So they've broken this larger full-day conference up over a few weeks. But these are some really great topics. And as Jody was talking about, these are some amazing presenters that you've got, really some of the most knowledgeable people in the state on these topics. So don't miss this. Really, it's a great opportunity to get a lot of great content, and it was at a really great price too. All right. Yeah. And then coming up a little later in March, on March 27th, this is an annual event we do with the Ohio State University and Purdue University. Laurie's heavily involved in this, as well as Ellen and Renee and Matt and all of our team play heavy roles in this. But we rotate this amongst the states. But this year, instead of having it in person, we've been forced to go to a virtual event. So the travel time will be equal for everybody. You just have to go to your laptop or your desktop, wherever that might be in your home. But don't miss this. Really, it's a great opportunity to hear from experts from Purdue, from Ohio State, and the University of Kentucky, talking on a variety of different topics that will be of interest to really anybody that cares about woods and wildlife. If you're interested in those topics, this is a great program you don't want to miss. Next, I want to talk about another program that Ellen's heavily involved with this one. It's online forest health updates. This is a continuation of some work that Ellen's been doing with some other universities, and they've had them in person in the past, but this one they're going to be doing online as well. And you can see some of the great topics they're going to be talking about, invasive pests that are, causing some issues in our forests, as well as trees, some of the different diseases that are impacting them, some of the invasive plants, and then Ellen's going to be highlighting some of the new tools and technology that are out there to kind of get us a better understanding and a hold on these invasive species. And as you can see there are a number of different credits that they are working on getting. So if you need continuing education credits, this is a great opportunity. Now, while the target audience is for professionals, I think, if you're a landowner and you're an active landowner, and you could probably get a lot out of this as well. So that's going to be on March 29th from 9 until 1. So don't miss that. Another great opportunity for you. And now I want to switch gears a little bit to talk about some youth forestry and natural resource educational opportunities. While we may not have a lot of youth watching the show today, I am very confident that you all know some youth. So whether those will be your children or your 4-H'ers or whoever you work with, or members of the community, if they don't know about these, please let them know. We need all the people that we can get understanding and caring about our forests and natural resources. And Laurie's takes the lead on this for our team here and the youth and forestry work. And so she has developed a Kentucky 4-H virtual forestry field day. Now, while it is targeted to 4-H'ers, honestly, there's content in there that everybody could benefit from. So if you're interested in this, don't be, don't feel like you can't get anything out of it, because she's put together a really great program here, and you can sign up for it at that link right there. A number of different virtual events and some challenges. So if for our 4-H agents, they could do club activities with this, or they could let the kids do it at home. And they're going to get a copy of Identifying Kentucky's Forest Trees if they complete the challenge. So this is an ongoing opportunity, so please take advantage of that. Next, I want to talk about their Naturalist in Training. This is a program that Laurie's working with some others here in our college, and it's an opportunity to get together monthly on some online sessions, and really it's kind of a spin-off in some ways of their Master Naturalist or Kentucky Naturalist trainings that they're doing for adults as well. The registration is open until March 26th, so if you're interested in participating in this, get this, or youth that might, get this out to them and have them register by March 26th. Keeping going on the youth stuff. Laurie leads our Kentucky Forest Leadership Program. This is a program that's been going on for more than 25 years. And typically it's an in-person residential camp. And it has often been held down at Jabez and on Lake Cumberland. But unfortunately that is no longer available. So they're making plans now to have it at Robinson Forest. I will tell you, because of the COVID situations, they've had to reduce numbers. So if you know of youth, good candidate youth for this, we're typically looking at high school juniors and seniors that have an interest in learning about forestry and natural resources. This is an amazing program. They bring together so many great experts that are really wonderful at working with youth, and it is a very inspiring program. And I tell you, I've been a part of it a couple of times, and it is an amazing experience. Really, the kids that go through this, I think, are forever changed, and they forever recognize the importance of our forest and natural resources. So if you know of any youth out there, don't let them miss this amazing opportunity. It really is something that you don't want to miss.
If they have any interest at all in forestry or wildlife or woodlands, they really need to go through that camp.
Yeah.
And with space being limited now, you need to get in early.
Yeah, get your registration. Yep. And then Laurie's also working on this Natural Resource Environmental and Sciences Academy. This is really a 3-year program. So they basically, once you sign up, ideally like in 6th grade, you'll cover certain topics, and then in 7th grade you'll cover other topics, and then 8th grade on you'll graduate. But this is a really good opportunity to get some of our younger youth or middle schoolers engaged. So really, if you know of youth out there that might be interested in this, please have them check this out, and we've got that link in there for you as well. So really good youth opportunities, and ultimately, we got to get the youth on board. We have to get the youth to recognize the importance of our forests and natural resources, because they're going to be our future voters, our future decision makers, and our future landowners. So we want to make sure that they're well educated on those. And then we've got our From the Woods segments. Yes,
you can't miss us.
Yeah, every Wednesdays at 11, and we've got a great lineup scheduled for March. We're going to be talking about some of the snake ID resources as people get out and about.
They're going to be starting to pop their heads out.
Yeah, they might see some friends out there. So we want to help you be able to kind of navigate and know what those are. And then on the 10th, we're going to be doing a main segment on the maples of Kentucky. Laurie's been working with some of her work on trees. She's put together a nice presentation on the different maples of Kentucky. And then we're going to have Bobby Ammerman's going to be talking with us about the UK Wood Utilization Center and some of the amazing work that comes out of that center. It is really impressive, so you don't want to miss that one. And then on the 24th, we're going to be talking about pesticide safety, which is really important as you start getting out and trying to be active on your property, making sure you're doing things correctly. It will cause you no harm, and no harm to the environment is really important. And then we're going to wrap up the month talking about the economic contribution of the forest industry here in the state. Half the state of Kentucky is covered in forest land, and those forests really are the foundation of a $13 billion annual economic contribution. So we'll learn more about that, and I think it'll be surprising to a lot of people just how diverse our forest industry here is in Kentucky, but also how important they are to our economy overall. So another great month of programs, so don't miss these programs, and we'll hope you'll be with us for some of those individually, but certainly tune in with us on Wednesdays at 11 every week.
Right. And, we pretty much always have the tree of the week. So if you're interested in a new tree every week, Lori does that. And we always have some other additional topic on that just usually a short segment on something, but it's usually on information that you're going to need. So make sure you tune in every week because you never know what we're going to throw at you. We just give you the main topics today, but we greatly appreciate you joining us every week, because without you, we don't really have a show. We need you to be able to watch it. So again, you can watch it on Facebook Live, or you can go to fromthewoodstoday.com, and every recording that we have there is posted there. So we kind of revamped it a little bit. So now you can scroll through all the episodes really easily. And so you can be able to see that. But I guess, Billy, that's all we have for today.
Yeah, let others know. Please help us spread the word about this. We're getting some great audiences out there, but we think there's a lot more people that really benefit and enjoy the content that we're trying to put out there. So spread the word.
Definitely. So we'll wrap up for today, and always join us next week at 11 o'clock. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.